you so much for taking the time to talk with me about the film that you're in, Asog. Um, this movie is so fascinating. It's such a different approach to storytelling, and I can't wait to talk to you more about it. Um, just to start out, for people who might just be discovering the film, can you give a brief synopsis on what Asog is about?
Well, Asog is actually a story of our lives. Basically, it's a story of a struggling gay, a teacher by day and a performer by night. And along the way, I met the survivors of Typhoon Haiyan and the victims of land grabbing in Sikugon, and with my co-actor's life, Arnel. And it talks about the many phases of the problems in the society, and that's how I portray it. And I also represent the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna talk about storytelling in this movie in a minute. But I really want to kind of start with talking about you and your own background in entertainment. As far as I understand, you have done stand-up comedy, and you're a comedian. Tell me more about your history in comedy.
Oh, well, yeah, I actually started in the stand-up comedy way back 2 decades ago, and that's how I met Sean. That was a year after the Typhoon Yolanda anniversary at the bar. Like he was filming a documentary, and then he was along his break. He was asking for, is there any like a comedy show here where he can, he can unwind? And then somebody told him, "Oh, you go to Jaya's bar." And then when he met me there, I was performing. That was the first anniversary of the Typhoon Haiyan, and then inside the bar, people were like mourning, remembering the griefs of their lost ones. And then suddenly I would come up stage and crack the joke. And maybe that's how Sean, got my attention. And
Mhm.
and that moment he told me, "Oh, I need to work with you." And so from that time up to this moment, we kept on communicating, and that's how we started. Also basically started.
That's so cool. What an organic start to a film. Um, I wanted to know more about this as we continue talking about you and your history in entertainment. Tell me about being a part of this film. It sounds like it was a long process of making it happen. So tell me more about your involvement and how that experience was.
Yeah, it all started out from brainstorming. Uh, telling my life to shine, and how we get connected each other, how we know our loves each other better, and then I am also a screenwriter. We and my co-actor Arnel, we are the screenwriter writers of this film, and it was all kind of our stories. It has become inspiration for each of us, and then that inspiration just so become magical that came up with this kind of storyline. And it's just so natural. I think my being a stand-up comedian helped me a lot, in just portraying the role, because I just acted so naturally, as if I'm just telling a story to the people. This is my life, this is our life, this is what I would like to share with you, and we hope that you get inspiration out of this film. And yeah, being a stand-up comedian helped me a lot as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of inspiration that can be derived from this film with all the stories that happen. But one thing that I was really curious about asking you, so you have comedy and you have storytelling, and I wanted to know more about your perspective on what connects the two, and how you use comedy and storytelling to get your message across.
You know what? It's so funny because when I was in New York during the Tribeca, during
Mhm.
our premiere, I was like, there were like critic telling me, "Oh my God, girl, you're not acting. You're just telling a story." And that's how I come up with a question. What's the difference between telling a story and acting? So
Mhm.
just be yourself. I mean, just tell your story and just portray your role. And there's no difference with that. But my being a performer as a stand-up comedian, I think helped me a lot because I do it in the natural way. When I make comedy, I do it naturally.
Mhm,
But our stand-up comedy here in the Philippines is far different when you go outside the Philippines. Like when you go to US, to Canada,
mhm,
your stand-up comedy there is just purely stand-up, you know, comical spills. But here in the Philippines, when we do this stand-up comedy, it's like singing, it's like
mhm,
dancing, it's stand-up comedy. So it's basically a package of a performance. So how I connected it with the acting, I think it's because I used to it. I'm being used to it, by entertaining the crowd, by telling stories to the crowd. I think that's how I related it in coming up with this film.
mhm. Yeah, and I think um when we're talking about you and how natural you are, you really are very natural in this movie. It
Thank
just
you.
it feels so organic. How everything how you do everything, how you tell stories, how you interact with other characters. It's a lot of fun. But it's such a, as I kind of mentioned, it's a very different way of storytelling. It's kind of, I think, categorized as like docudrama. There's like this very blurry line between documentary and like a drama comedy kind of film. Did you have any challenges in writing within that very unique style of filmmaking?
Oh well, it's a collaboration with direction.
Mhm,
Every now and then there is even like an instance that we need to change the script, and he would tell me, oh, direct, I should do this in my own words. I
mhm,
think for me to better deliver it that way, I should rephrase the dialogues, and then every now and then we keep on collaborating and communicating, just to come up with the perfect lines and the stories. That's how we do it.
mhm. There are a lot of stories along the way, and very compelling stories, very moving experiences about how people were affected by this storm that happened, but also by kind of a the colonial nature where companies are trying to come in or trying to come in and steal this land. Um, Tell me about how you decided which stories get featured in the film. I imagine there was a lot to choose from. But tell me more about you guys picking which stories are in the film, and I don't know, are there any stories that you weren't able to include?
Yeah, basically it was all up to Sean
Mm-hmm.
direction. But when I told him my life story, and then, oh, this is something interesting, and so how we write it, okay, let's do it this way, and with all the styles and techniques, especially, it's up to Sean, and then he would just tell me, oh, this is the line, this is the story. Okay, if that's the line, can I make it comfortable for myself, in delivering the storyline? And let's come up again with another, revision of the scripts, like that.
I
And
see.
so for me to be able to deliver it very naturally. Yeah, because there were lines that, oh, there were lines that, oh, I can hardly express this line. Can we rephrase it into this, for me to make it kind of easier?
Hmm.
And then I think there's no, the story is just organic
Hmm.
because it's our life story. There is no exaggerations in it. It's
Hmm.
a pure story of our lives. So
It
maybe that's the most interesting part, because it's purely natural. It's purely, it's an organic story.
It is. So we have, like I mentioned, a lot of storytelling. There's a narrative that goes through the film, which is your character, and this kind of road trip kind of story. There's also the stories of locals and Filipinos who have their stories to tell. But there's also this very interesting fable that is given in portions throughout the movie about a king crab and the frog and then the other insects that kind of blame each other for why this crab can't rest. I really wanted to know more about like where that story came from, and how that became a part of the fabric of this film.
It's again, it's still Sean's
So that was Sean's thing.
magnificent mind. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like an analogy, making an analogy and then comparing it, making it, putting it into life.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some like critical stories in the film that that we are not allowed to get involved with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just basically tap on the survivors, these victims, and that's just it. I don't go beyond the line, when it comes to specific critical matters. So I leave it up to direction.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Um, there's a lot of compelling moments in the movie. In fact, there's one quote that I wanted to bring up that you said in the movie. It's a scene that was so striking to me where the two main characters are just kind of walking down a street and there's debris and everywhere and they're just talking and asking questions about God and punishment. But there's a
Yeah.
quote in there where you say people who want too much do too much. And that, I think, after hearing all of these stories and how much lives were affected in the aftermath of this um, uh, tragedy, and then of course the companies coming in and wanting to take land from people, that was a line that hit really hard for me. And so I wanted to get to know if you had anything more to say about it. And I also want to know what your favorite part of the movie is.
There were lots of my favorites in the movie. First and foremost, it was during the first scene that I was underwater.
Yes.
That was my I actually just started my TV program there. Just before that Yolanda time, I started my TV program for 2 weeks, and then it was really my dream to be on a television and to be a host for a big crowd like. And it's just so sad that Typhoon Yolanda just struck our place, and just a matter of 2 weeks, all my dreams have gone. My
Mhm.
dreams have turned into a nightmare. And then because it's my ambition, I was trying to run after with the recorder just to save it because it's really my dream. And
Mhm.
now, in just a glimpse of an eye, my dream faded away. And going back to your question, the line when we were walking, it's actually a line for people in power, that the result of who crave so much for power. This is the result, the climate
Mhm.
change,
Mhm.
and all of this, the victims. We are all the victims in the society. We are all the victims because of this power, influential people who still crave for power. And that, I think, the result of the climate change, it's not because of you know it's not because of God's will to punish us. Maybe
Mhm.
it's because of this people who are hungry enough for power, that they don't care about what surrounds them, for as long
Mhm.
as they have that power, that fame, and all that. I mean, they will just go for it.
Mhm.
But now look at this effect to us. We are striving with our daily lives, and it's so hard to cope up with our day-to-day basis living. And how can we all get through all of this?
Mhm.
But
Uh,
somehow there's there's an advantage, because it's not just all that selfishness that matter. It's also about how you share love to your community, and how you extend support to one another, and how to be contented with what you have now. And I
Absolutely.
think that, yes, I think that climate change is not about dealing with all of this, but it's how you provide food on the table.
Mhm.
It's how you find your life. in a day-to-day basis and how you make it right.
Absolutely. I think that maybe that's why one of the reasons why that scene was so striking to me is because it kind of crescendos into this really um empowering message with all the things that you just said that that end up hitting home towards the end of the film, which is awesome. I'm going to bring this to a close here in just a few moments, but as the film goes into the Vancouver Film Festival and Vancouver audiences are about to experience it, what is one thing that you want people to know going into the film, and what is one thing you want them to take away after the film?
Yeah, I would like to let the people know that this is our lives here in the Philippines. It's so hard to, live here with all this, burdens inside you. But one thing is for sure, you can relate with our life stories. And I'm hoping that when you go out to the theater, you will bring this inspiration within you and you will be able to apply this inspiration to your day-to-day basis, that life is not just a matter of self-empowering, but it's also how you share goodness and kindness to others. I mean, I am so proud here because of this film, Asog. I was able now to represent the LGBTQ community in my community. I was able to come out and I was able to speak my voice, and at least I represented, the little member of the LGBTQ community, and somehow I get this inspiration that, in life I should take up space. I should play a vital role in the society, and that being a member of the LGBTQ community, we should be recognized because we also have our worth.
That's incredible. It's so inspirational, and I think that that will resonate with a lot of people and a lot of audiences. And I applaud you for your work on this film, Asog. I applaud you with your bravery in being willing to speak your truth and then of course have it presented here in this movie. So thank you so much for this. This has been a pleasure talking with you, Jaya.